What's up YouTube? Today's video we're going to go over how to craft a perfect claw. I know a lot of people have questions about how to make a better claw and what's the best claw for them to actually use, and there are a lot of different options, but I do think that crafting the perfect endgame claw is a pretty solved matter at this point, at least for elemental builds. And here is going to be you're going to get the A+ on the report card, and it's going to be a perfect claw. You're not going to get scammed. Well, you might actually get scammed when you do the harvest fracture, but getting scammed is part of crafting, right? You always have to factor in like double the costs. If you get scammed, then yeah, might have to start back at step 1, but hopefully you don't get scammed and you follow along the guide and you'll make your favorite dream claw. So basically, this is how to craft like the best claw possible if you are able to afford it, and I do think you should probably set aside like 40 exalts maybe, and that's like at the bare minimum. I think based on the fracture base, you could technically use a worse fracture base. But if you can't afford it, you can use a budget claw, right? You can just buy a claw off trade website or use essences to craft. In order to use essences to craft, you can just get any deafening essence with flat fire damage, flat cold damage, or flat lightning damage. You could also get essence of zeal, which gives you attack speed. And those are the 4 I would mainly use. And you want to prioritize fire damage and cold damage if you use Secrets of Suffering. So you can see here, this is fire and cold damage, so this will be a perfect Secrets of Suffering. Now, unlike this person, you probably want to craft on pen and not flat lightning damage. This person has no idea what he's doing. And if you're using Gale Sight still, you should prioritize lightning damage and cold damage. And cold damage is by far the most important because for Secrets of Suffering and alternate ailments, it gives us brittle. So this is a search parameter you want to enter in if you want to look for a budget claw. You have Imperial Claw. Put in the attacks per second, roughly 1.95, and elemental DPS 450. And you can see here that this claw right there was 60 chaos, so it's really not too crazy of a item. So we can see here, we bring up another tray, and you can always adjust these parameters a little bit. So if you want a slightly better one, 2 and 500 LE DPS, and you want to put Imperial Claw because you want a base that can give you life gain on hit. A lot of people don't understand that, but here you can see a decent one exalt. That's actually really cheap. I should probably buy it up. But basically, you can see there's tons and tons of options out there at all budget levels. So you just adjust the LE DPS, and yeah. But for this purpose of this video, we're gonna make the perfect claw, right? So let's see what makes a perfect claw. So perfect claw, you always want to go for the 30% attack speed fracture. Attack speed is actually the most important thing in scaling LE damage. It helps with everything, and it also makes the game feel a lot better. Now, there's 2 different types of perfect claws in general, and one way of doing it is going for double LE damage, flat roll. So this was fire and T1 lightning, and this one over here is triple prefixes. Now you can get fire, cold, and lightning. This is actually my claw. This is T3 cold, T1 lightning, and essence fire. This one says essence fire and T1 lightning. This claw does end up being slightly better on PoE than this claw, but it's very close, and I think the difference is more or less negligible. So you can do either way. You can go for T1 LE damage rolls or triple T1 LE rolls. Double T1 LE damage rolls is much easier to craft. This is pretty much just like, oh, we ran into this crafting with triple T1 LE because you got extremely lucky while essence spamming. But basically, this is probably what most people's claws will look like. You generally want to craft crit chance with strength and int, so that you can see here both these claws have this craft. And strength and int is extremely valuable with omniscience, so you can pretty much consider this craft also 2% all res and 2% pen. And you want to go for double damage, crit multi, or accuracy for last suffix. Now, generally, most people do all crit to get the crit multi like this one, but you could also unveil an accuracy mod if you're unveiling and you hit the suffix. So there's a lot of different options, but these are the best ones for suffixes: double damage, crit multi, or accuracy. But let's go see how we actually start the crafting process. So step 1 is pretty simple, and this is also by far the most expensive step of the process, and it is to get a 30% attack speed fracture base. You can choose to buy one from the trade site, really expensive, like 34, 35x at the moment, or you can gamble with harvest fractures, which is a lot cheaper, but if you don't have the bankroll, then you're going to bankrupt yourself, right? So fracture costs around 4 to 5x, 1 in 5. And this is what I'm talking about. You could get scammed. Someone could hit the fracture, be like, oh shit, that's pretty good. I'm going to take the item for myself. And they could easily do that, and you would just be out 4 to 5x. Or you would actually be out 30x because you would lose the claw. But 1 out of 3 suffix costs 8x roughly. So you can see here expected value is like 25x and this is 24x, so around 25x. So you can pretty much like get a discount of like 10x or so if you decide to fracture it yourself. Now fracturing yourself can be a huge gamble, but should be cheaper in the long run. So if you like average it out, you did a lot of these, you would be cheaper buying the fractures on harvest. So you can see here, this is some TFT ones that what people are selling at. And let's go see the fractured attack speed basis, right? So if we go here, we can see here we have fractured 30% attack speed. And you can see here they're all 35x. And most people do craft it out or just spam some essences on you and try to upsell you on it, and it literally costs no money to craft. So most of the ones that you see that are fractured, the people already crafted it. So you pretty much have to kind of get the fracture yourself. Now, step 2, after you get the fracture, you want to essence spam with deafening essence of anger. Now, this is if you use Secrets of Suffering. Now, if you're not using Secrets of Suffering, you should probably be using Secrets of Suffering by the time you can afford to do this clawcraft, right? So you use deafening essence of anger because you want fire damage for Scorch, which gives you penetration, and cold damage is the most important. And the flat cold damage in T1 is better than the essence damage of T1. Than the essence damage. So you want T1 flat cold if possible. If you go for T2 plus cold damage, it'll take you around 80 attempts. So you can see here with this calculator over here. Let's see, we actually don't have the crafting project right here, but this is how you actually look for the claw and generally how to see what you actually need to roll to get the craft done. So here we want to go for T1 cold, right? If you go for T1 cold, use the essence, and let's just choose anger. You can see it takes 390 anger essences to hit T1 cold, so it's pretty hard to hit T1 cold damage. And in order to hit another elemental damage, like let's say you settled for T2 lightning while doing this, you can see here it's almost a very, very hard thing to do if you actually go for both of them. Wait, so is it actually working right now? So it says 67, but oh yeah, if you actually, so 54,872 anger essences, right? So you can see here, it is pretty much an impossibility to get. This is a lot more reasonable to get. So my claw that I made, which was T3 cold, would have cost 3,983 essences. So that's why most of the claws you'll see will only be 2 mods, and trying to get a T1 roll of 1 is a lot harder. You can see how low the weighting is, 108 weight. So basically, your best bet, if you don't want to spend a bunch, is just get T1 flat cold. If you're a little cheaper, you can go for T2 cold. It'll be a lot easier. Now, if you have an open prefix, then you're good to move on to the next step. If your prefixes are filled, however, then you need to annul and pray to Chris Wilson, right? There's really nothing you can do. So if you have a prefix filled, you need to annul because you need to have an open prefix for the next step. Ideal end result is to have open prefix or triple LA damage prefixes. Now, triple LA damage prefixes is probably not going to happen for most people here. But once you get it, you're now done. You have 2 prefix mods, which is the Essence Anger and a T1 or T2 Cold and an open prefix. So now you have 2 options. You can go for Unveiled mod on either the prefix or suffix. Now, I personally think that Unveiled mod on prefix is probably the best. Now, if you have an extra suffix, then prefixes cannot be changed and scour. So basically, you want to break down the claw to what it looks like here. You want to just have, so you want to remove this mod here. So you basically want to have 30% fracture attack speed, T1 flat cold, and then the Essence Anger mod before you start the Ashling part. So now you want to craft on prefixes cannot be changed after scouring the suffixes, and by Ashling try to hit prefix or suffix unveil. Now there's one thing to note, if you're going for the prefix unveil, you're trying to hit this mod here. Attacks with this weapon penetrates 14% elemental resistance, but your prefix unveil can break if you do not hit the elemental damage penetration. So you could be left with left with a break prefix, right? And you cannot block anything on this prefix unveil slot because your prefixes are filled. So what this means is if you break the unveil with the prefix, you have to go back to step 2 and respam essences. So even though the prefix unveil will make a better claw, you can have the chance of breaking it. Now, if you choose to do the suffix unveil and you get the suffix unveil, then you can block with trigger socket the spell before unveiling the suffix. Now you're looking for 6 to 7% chance to deal double damage, crit multi, while rare or unique is nearby is really good. Crit chance is also really good with strength and int, and so is accuracy with strength and int. So if you break the unveil of the suffix, you need the prefixes cannot be changed, scour, and go try Ashling again. So let's go see here on this claw that I currently have. So let's actually remove this suffix and let's see how we can do it. So right here, you want to craft on prefixes cannot be changed, and then you want to go by an Ashling, unveil. So here we got a prefix, so let's see, we get lucky. So you can see here, this is when the claw will break, right? Because if you hit this mod, you can't do anything. You would have to annul. Actually, yes, you would annul, right? And then if you hit it off, well, you got lucky, right? So you can try it again. Prefixes cannot be changed. So you can always try to save it with a null. Right there, you actually unveil again, and then you hit a prefix. Let's see where you get lucky. We got lucky this time, right? So this claw is finished this way. Now let's see what happens if we get a suffix, right? You get a suffix, then you get 6% chance to deal double damage. But make sure before unveiling that you actually craft something. So you should not do what I do. You want to go to bench here. You want to go craft on trigger, because trigger is actually the highest weight. Let's see, where's trigger? If you craft on trigger here before unveiling, then you can see this mod is good. This mod is also good. Wow, this is all 3 good mods here. If it was this was my claw, I would probably do it like this, right? Because I think crit multi is the best. But then you remove this, and you're set to go on to the next step, right? So this step has a little bit of gambling. You could get a little bit unlucky, spend a lot of time doing it, but it's not like too crazy. The worst case scenario is your prefixes cannot be changed bricks, or your prefix unveil bricks, and your annul bricks, and you have to start over with step 2. But now on step 4, you're almost at the finish line, and you just need to pray to Chris Wilson, because this step does have some RNG. If you hit the suffix unveil, then you craft on elemental damage penetration on the bench, and you buy Aug Crit. Aug Crit is going to be, what's it called? You want to pray to Chris Wilson, you get 38% crit multi. Now, you could also get crit chance if your suffix unveil is not crit. If your suffix unveil is not crit chance, and you get like double damage. But crit chance is not like crazy good, because we have brittle and we have very easy access to 100% crit. If you hit prefix unveil, then you craft on crit chance with strength and int. Then you buy all crit and pray for 38% crit multi. So this is like guaranteed the all crit at 1 in 6 to hit the crit multi. And then after that, you make sure to get Hillock 28% weapon quality and harvest attack speed enchant. So after you get 28% weapon quality and attack speed enchant right here, you will see that you will have 2.13 attacks per second on the weapon, and you are finished, and now you own. So let's go try out this process on the emulator real fast to see how it goes so people understand. So this is a case where you kind of finished it already. You got the crit multi. This claw is probably not going to have like crit chance most likely, but let's see what we can do. We would just craft on the prefix on the bench of pen. And at this point, it is up to Chris Wilson, right? We go by all crit. Come on, let's get it. 38% multi. Oh, wait, what does it even get? Aug crit, right? Oh, augment right here. And we got T3 crit multi. That's not too bad, right? So you can also get crit chance, you can see. Crit chance, not terrible. Crit chance, not terrible. Multi. Crit chance T2, not bad. You can get the general gist, right? You're guaranteed to get crit chance and crit multi. This would actually be a pretty good claw. But let's go do another case scenario where you hit off a prefix, right? So let's say here you do the syndicate crafting. Here we get an unveil prefix, and let's see, we got it. So now we craft on the bench the crit chance and strengthen int. No, where is that? Let's see. There are a lot of different things. You can also technically craft on double damage, but I think with Omniscience, that crit chance and strength int is just too good. So you get this node here, and this is what, and now you all crit. And because you have this thing crafted, it blocks off the waiting for being able to get crit chance. So you're guaranteed to get crit multi. So it's a 1 in 6. So yeah, it's not too good. Not too good, right? And here, this is a perfect claw, right? So basically, you're pretty much left with whatever odd crit you get, unless you want to start over from the previous step. So most of the time, it's not really worth it. But you can see here, 2 different ways to do it. You got to do the suffix unveil or prefix unveil, and you pretty much just let Chris Wilson guide you with doing it. And yeah, so now you're finished and you own, and let's see what conclusions we have. Overall, a lot of times you might be able to buy a finished claw that is around the same expected cost as crafting it, and it might be a better thing, right? Going through all of the ashlings is not the most fun experience in the world, although it's not exactly the hardest crafting process either, right? But the biggest takeaway is watch out for finished claws that sell at an insane amount. When crafting it with essences and ashlings a lot cheaper, tons of top tier crafters take advantage of this and milk you for 10 to 20x profit per claw. They know that a lot of ARM tiers pretty much just buy the best claw and don't care about how much it actually costs to craft. Do not get baited by the crafters selling at an insane profit. You can technically craft it yourself and sell it at a profit yourself, right? So let's go take a look at the trade site for how these claws actually look like. So this one's not even crafted, right? So you could probably buy this one and craft it yourself. This one, this guy pretty much just went full lazy mode, didn't use any ashling. So you could, then this is terrible, right? P5 and P4, so not really crafted. This one's not really crafted, it's awful. So these people just spam some essences to try to get the claw to look more appealing. P0, P4, terrible. This one, no fire damage, so it's terrible, terrible, terrible. So this is not terrible, but it's still lightning damage, not cold. So this is like the first decent one. And this guy bricked the suffix unveil, as you can see. So claw's pretty meh. So if this guy wanted to finish it off cheaply, he would just craft on pen, and then you will all crit right there. This one here is not terrible, but it's not that bad, right? But you can see here, 48 exalts is insane because you could probably make it a lot cheaper. And I do know all crit costs 4, and I think Ashling's at 1x. And prefixes cannot be changed scour. So this is maybe around the expected value of what it would cost. But you can see here, the people who try to like upsell an insane amount, like this one here, 75x, is pretty crazy for this claw. This claw is what, 60 exalts, and it's just not that insane, right? This is actually a brick claw. You should never like buy any of these claws for a huge upsell in price, because as you can see from my method, you can craft it relatively easily, especially if you're only going for P2 and not T1. The only ones I would pay a huge amount for are probably like T1 flat damage with T1 crit multi or triple T1, T2 flat LA damage rolls. But overall, hopefully this has helped out everyone and you can make a claw that's pretty perfect. Both ways are fine with suffix or prefix unveil. It's a pretty fun craft. It does cost a lot to get started. And if you want to gamble on the harvest fracture, it's pretty annoying and I think you might get scammed a lot of times. I did get one person try to scam me when I did a harvest fracture in the past. They pretty much got the harvest, linked it to me, and left the party, right? That's just something that happens. That's part of the game. We just got to adapt to it. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope everyone's able to make their perfect claw of their dreams and play the build. It's pretty fun. And be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below what crafting method you have instead of this one. And see you next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.